Okay, how do we do this? How do we start a podcast? We have to figure out what our trademark intro is going to be. I think most people start very boisterously. They kind of welcome their audience members and say hello. It's not really my style. Not really my style. I'm a miserable fuck, and I want all of you to be miserable as well. So we'll definitely have to do something different. But no, welcome. I am Michael Flanagan, and I'm officially calling it episode 0 because it will be kind of a weird format. But this is episode 0 of the SuperHypeGaming podcast, where we're not going to talk about games at all today. We're not going to talk about games at all. We're actually going to talk about my trip up to the Adirondacks, my week-long trip, and mostly about my experience climbing Mount Colden via the trap dike. So yeah, it's exciting. So kind of an intro, I am 24 years old, and I'm on a quest to become more creative, or to become creative again. In high school, I did percussion, and I did theater, and those things were huge parts of my life, and they were really a part of how I identified myself and how I viewed myself in the world. And not to gloat too much, but I was very talented at those things. The band program at my high school was very well funded. We had excellent band directors and stuff, and the students in that program who really excelled were truly gifted musicians. And I considered myself to be in that league with them. And so after high school, I kind of didn't get into the college that I wanted to. So I kind of failed to pursue those things that I wanted to pursue, which was really unfortunate. And I did community college for a year, and I did well grade-wise. I was a good student. But I didn't have a passion for anything anymore. I didn't have that drive to really push myself and to do stuff. So I stopped going to college, and I just started working full time. And over the past 5-6 years that I've been working full time, I have grown. I have gotten myself into better and better positions, and I'm in a job right now that I actually really like. It's a small company, and there's only 20 people or so there, and it's a place where I can kind of be myself. I can be a little more creative there, and I can kind of make the role my own. But it is still not my own thing, I guess. So that's what kind of led me to Twitch, and streaming on Twitch was just to have this own space, to have this platform where I could just kind of just rant and do stuff that I love, show off some cool games and stuff that I love. And yeah, I'm on this quest to just be creative again and to be a creative person again. And so part of that was I felt like I needed a reset. And so this was what this journey to the Adirondacks was mainly for, as to be kind of just a reset, to reset myself and to refine myself. So, I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia, and I flew up to New York, up to the Adirondacks for 4 or 5 days. Let's see, I flew up Sunday. It's currently Wednesday afternoon. I'm back in Albany, back in my hotel room, and so I am post mountain climb. So I'm here to tell you all about those exciting things. So let's see. Sunday I got in, flew into Albany. I wanted to fly into Plattsburgh, but it's kind of poor planning on the airports, because the airport in Plattsburgh, none of the flights were coming in. All the flights were coming in after the rental car places were closed. So I basically would have just been stuck in the Plattsburgh airport with no way to get anywhere. So I had to fly into Albany, which is about a 2-hour drive from Keene Valley, which is the place up in the Adirondacks where I was staying. So I flew into Albany, drove up the 2 hours, which was actually kind of nice. I put on a podcast, which I love podcasts, by the way. This is why I'm doing this, because I love podcasts so much. And I never thought I would do a podcast by myself. I always wanted to do a podcast, but I never thought I would do one by myself. But for this special episode, it's going to be just me. So yeah, I drove 2 hours up to Albany, and it was very nice because, Albany's in upstate New York, so it's already very nice there. But then you're driving up to the Adirondacks, and, suddenly things become much more mountainous. I've never driven down a highway before, and the median in the middle of the highway is just big rocks, just big fucking rocks. It's crazy that you're just driving next to it, and you start to see all the mountains in the distance and stuff, because the Adirondacks are just fucking littered with mountains. It's like nature overload up there. So yeah, I drove up to Keene Valley. That's where I stayed for this whole little trip, and found myself, actually online. It's kind of funny. Found myself just this small little kind of almost like a bed and breakfast, except there was no breakfast. But it was called the Roostercombe Inn, and it's basically just this lady's house. And she lives in the very upstairs, and she's got, maybe like 4 or 5 rooms. And so I was in the downstairs. I paid to get, the bedroom with my own bathroom and my own shower. And very like Twin Peaks vibes, very like the Great Northern Hotel. Just like wooden floors, everything's wood, everything's made out of wood. There's like blankets hanging off the fucking walls and shit. And very quiet. It's a very quiet little town that I stayed in Keene. There's like 2 places to eat. There's a diner right across the street within walking distance, and I ate there probably 4 times. And then there's a little restaurant there too, which is also within walking distance. And yeah, there's not much else. There's a little grocery store owned by this little old lady who was super cute. But I mean, it's just a tiny little grocery store. There's like a hardware store. It's like, hey, you got to fix your house or whatever. There's a hardware store. There's a school, and I was wondering, like, man, how many teachers do they have at the school, Because it is just a tiny little town. It's like, what if there's a year where there's just no kids, Like, what do you do? I imagine those teachers probably have, like, some weird part-time jobs or something, but... So yeah, Sunday night I got in and basically just checked into the hotel. I mean, check in. It's basically self check in. She puts the key in the door, and you just kind of walk in, and just ate. Had some beers. Came back and went to sleep, and then Monday was kind of my only free day that was planned, where I could just kind of do whatever the fuck I wanted to, whatever I felt like. So Monday I woke up, and Monday was pretty rainy. It's not like a heavy rain. It was kind of nice, actually. It was kind of just like a nice drizzly rain, which was kind of comfy. And I had bought a rain jacket because, you do mountain climbing, and you definitely got to have a rain jacket in your backpack. So yeah, I got some use out of that, which was nice. It wasn't like wasted money or anything on that rain jacket, but got my backpack together and just actually I started the day. I had to drive an hour up to a little town. I forget what it was called. It had some weird ass name. I probably wouldn't even pronounce it right, but it's kind of lame. I had to go to a Walmart because I had to get some snacks and stuff for the mountain climb, which I didn't want to bring on the plane because it's just a hassle bringing food on the plane and stuff. So I drove up to Walmart, and it's like the most serene Walmart you've ever been to. It's just like you walk out of this Walmart and there's mountains everywhere. It's like, wow, where the hell am I? So did that, and then on the way up and on the way back, just anytime I saw a cool little spot, just pulled over and like just hung out for a bit. I took some pictures and just enjoyed. There's a nice lake there, Eagle Lake, and just enjoyed, the outdoors. And it was kind of rainy, but it was not like heavy rain again, so it was just a little drizzly. So it's just a nice, comfy rain. So let's see. I did that, and then that was kind of my whole Monday. Was just driving around and just. Actually, I drove back to the hotel that I'm staying at and actually did some walking. So I actually walked like 3 miles up the road and 3 miles back, and it's not really a trail. You're kind of just walking on the road or on the side of the road. There's a walking trail, I guess, but you get these like big fields. There's a river there, so you get a nice, you're kind of walking next to the river, and there'll be some big fields, and you can just look at all the mountains and stuff. I mean, there's mountains everywhere. It's very funny. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like a Jerry Seinfeld joke that came to me. It's like, because I live in Georgia, and obviously there's like the Appalachians, but most of Georgia is pretty flat and stuff. And it's just, you get up there and it's just like, God was just like, boom, mountains everywhere. Just fucking mountains all over the place. I actually have there's a cool little Mountaineer store within walking distance of the hotel. And they've got a lot of cool stuff. They got some t-shirts and some water bottles that have all the mountain names that are up in the Adirondacks and their elevation. They're like organized by elevation. So Mount Colden is on there, which is really, really cool. So let's see. Yeah, Monday was just an exploring kind of day, and then Tuesday was weather-wise. Weather-wise was not too kind to me on this trip, but Tuesday was supposed to be the one day that was super, super clear, not rainy at all. So me and the guide that I hired, decided that Tuesday would be the best day to do the mountain climb. And if you don't know, climbing a mountain is very difficult. It's very difficult, and it's very emotional as well. Leading up to this, on Twitch, I was streaming Celeste, and it's a game that I've played before and found very emotional. The first time, but the second time, everything really, really hit me even harder. All the moments where the main character is having doubts, and there's a line where she says, there's all this shit in my head from several years ago that doesn't even matter anymore. It's just stupid shit, but I can't stop thinking about it. And it's very true for me. That that's something that's very true, I think, for a lot of people. I think a lot more people than anyone realizes kind of deals with those moments of doubt and reflecting on things that don't really matter anymore, but you're still just thinking about them. So Tuesday I woke up. Tuesday's the mountain climb, and drive up to this little lodge where there's basically a bunch of trails that kind of break off from this lodge. And I meet my guide, Kel. And Kel's a pretty cool guy. He's probably in his, mid-40s or something. I didn't ask him, but, he's got, medium length, brownish blonde hair. And he's, super skinny, but also, you can tell he's muscular, but he's, that skinny kind of muscular, And, meet him, and then we started the whole experience. So it was 4.5 miles of trail just to get to Mount Colden, and that part wasn't too bad. It sounds very intense, but I'd say the first 1.5 miles is pretty standard wilderness trail. I mean, you're on a trail, there's a bunch of trees and shit. And then the next maybe mile is a little steeper. So you're working a little harder, and obviously you're raising in elevation, so it gets a little harder to breathe, kind of. not like too much harder, but you definitely feel it. You feel your ears pop, and you feel, you know, a little bit less oxygen in your lungs than you did before. So yeah, we got that. And then the last, let's see, what is that, like, trying to do my math here. I'm up to like 2.5 miles. I don't know. I guess all that stuff was a little longer, and you know, at some point you get up to I forget what river it is, but you're kind of walking around the right side of this river, and you're walking along next to this other mountain, and you know, it's a lot of like, that's where things start to get really rocky and stuff. So you're climbing over some rocks and stuff, and then they've got some little like wooden walkways over some of the river parts, and you're walking, and to the left of you is this river, and on the other side of the river is this just beautiful mountain, and then on the right of you is the like face of another mountain, and it's just this rocky wall, and it's just insane. It feels like you've stepped into like another world. It feels like you're on a totally different planet than the planet that you're used to. And you know, early in the morning, it had rained all day the day before, and so early in the morning, you know, we started around 8. It was still very like foggy and stuff, which is it really added to the mystique of everything. It reminded me of like Isla Nublar from Jurassic Park or something. It was totally surreal. So we get up there, and then there's a little dam, just a tiny little man-made dam, and you cross that, and you're on the other side of the river, and then you do some bushwhacking, which is, you know, it feels like such a hillbilly thing to call it. It's just bushwhacking, but I did some bushwhacking, put on some bug spray, and got up to the base of Mount Colden. And there's 2 ways up Mount Colden. You can take just a regular trail up the backside. It's kind of a longer way, but it's definitely easier. And then you can also take what's called the trap dike, which is the way that we took, where there's basically this carving into Mount Colden. It's like this little, you know, crevasse, or I don't know. But there's this little waterfall there, and it's not the waterfall that you're probably thinking of, where it's just, you know, gallons and gallons of water coming out. It's just, you know, there's some rocks, and there's a light stream of water coming down. But, you know, that was around 11 o'clock that we got there to the base of Mount Colden, and it's just crazy there. It's like, you know, the air is just super cool. It was nice because, you know, in Atlanta, it's like 90 degrees this week, you know, in the beginning of September. And up here in New York, it's around 70. And then, you know, there at the base of Mount Colden, you're next to the river, and it's down in like the 60s and stuff. And it was just super cool. You know, the air was super cool, just with you know, you could feel the water next to you. So yeah, we stopped at the base, right at the base of that waterfall, and had some stuff to eat, drank some water, and then put on a few pieces of equipment. So we put on a harness, and then we put on our helmets, obviously. And let me tell you, the helmets were definitely a godsend, because I definitely bonked my head on some rocks a couple times, and if I didn't have that helmet on, I'd have some major head bonks. So definitely grateful for the helmet. But yeah, so after that, we started the ascent of Mount Colden, and you know, the first part is basically you're just climbing up next to the waterfall. You're not climbing up through the waterfall, but you know, the waterfall is kind of on the left side, and it's just like lightly running down, and then we're climbing up the right side, and yeah, it's just truly amazing. And you know, it's a lot of like big rocks, and you're kind of you know, you're climbing up the rocks, and you gotta, you know, grab onto with your hand, grab a handhold, find a good place to put your feet and just pull yourself up. And then there were a couple spots on the waterfall where things got a little technical, where the guide, he would strap me into his rope, and then he would go up. He might place a couple of anchors and stuff, and then he would say "embelé," and embelé apparently means like, okay, now it's time for you to climb. I'm not sure what language that is or where that originates from. I didn't ask him, but embelé. So he'll get up to a checkpoint and he'll say embelé, and then I'll follow up after him, and I'll grab the anchors and stuff on my way back up. And it's cool. It's like that part was probably my favorite part of the mountain climb, because it was technical, but it wasn't too straining. You had to you definitely had to be careful, because you definitely could slip on that part, but you're climbing up and you're just looking for good places to put your feet, good places to grab onto, and it's physically demanding, but it's not like totally exerting yourself. So we did that, and we climbed the waterfall, and then after that, after that we got to the base of the next part, which I'm not really sure what it's called, but basically Mount Colden, about 8 years ago, the part near the top was completely covered in shrubbery and forests and trees and stuff like that. And after Hurricane Irene came through, there was this whole little strip, and if you see pictures, you can see it. It's like this tiny little like racing stripe almost, and this tiny little strip where the hurricane basically just pushed all of that down and off of the mountain. All the dirt, any kind of trees or shrubbery that was up there. And so you've got like just this little strip of, now it's just rock. And it's, on either side, there's still, you can see what it used to look like, with all the dirt and the soil and the trees and stuff. So we get to that part, and that part is pretty steep. That part is really, really steep, and that was probably the hardest part of the whole mountain climb, because there's not a lot of like, it's basically just it's not really flat. It's kind of interesting. There's like a lot of like golf ball kind of shaped holes and stuff. They're not very deep, but they're kind of in there, and you're kind of just walking up it. But you gotta like lean your body forward so that it's like the best way it's the best way if you put your body forward and put your weight in front of your feet. And that part was crazy, because it's like there's really no place to put my feet or put my hands or anything, and it's definitely a calf burner too. That was the main thing, because you're basically just walking up the side. You're really just walking up the side of this fucking mountain. So yeah, that was intense, like very, very intense. And there were definitely a couple parts during that where it was like, man, am I going to be able to finish this? Because by that point we had 4.5 miles of trail. We had the rock climbing part near the waterfall. So I was starting to feel it. I was starting to feel the burn a little bit by that point. So there was a couple moments where it's like, man, can I finish this? And you can kind of see the top. That's where you can start to finally kind of see the top. And you basically walk up the mountain, and then there's some more bushwhacking. And then you're at the summit, and he's like, it's right up there. The guide's like, it's right up there, and I kept like, I would have my head down as we were climbing, and every once in a while I would look back up, and it almost felt like the top was getting farther and farther away. And so at that, after a couple times of looking up and feeling that, I kind of stopped looking up, and I just kept my head down. But yeah, we did that, and then finally we got to the top of that and got to the bushwhacking part again. And then you're there. You're at the summit. And it's an incredible thing. I mean, it truly is to stand at the base of a mountain, and then a few hours later, you're at the top, and you're looking, every time you look at every point during the climb, the views are just amazing. And they just keep getting better and better as you go, the higher you get. And you reach the top, and there's this very iconic rock at the top of Mount Colden that won't be there forever. It's one of those things where you realize that, like, after enough rain and after enough hurricanes and stuff like that rock will eventually just fall off the mountain, which will be really tragic because it truly is, kind of, it's like the flag of Mount Colden. It's the thing that signifies that you have reached the top. It's the thing to take pictures next to. And without that, it's like, what the hell am I supposed to take a picture next to? So yeah, get to the top, and it really hit me. I definitely cried like a bitch. Maybe not like a bitch, but I definitely teared up. And it's just an incredible, human thing to do, to challenge yourself and to push yourself, and to have those moments where you don't know if you're going to be able to do it, and then you do it. And just to fly all the way out here and do that, and to be able to say that I'm a person that has climbed a mountain, it's insane. And I'm still thinking about it. I did that yesterday. And I'm still just thinking about it, like, wow, I did that. That's a thing that I've done, with my life now. At 24 years old, that's a thing under my belt, is that I've climbed a mountain. And the views up there are just incredible. There's so many mountains to look at, and the clouds are like right there. You can see it in some of the pictures that I've posted on my Twitter and stuff. Just the clouds are like there, you're right under them. And that's insane. Definitely had another like Jerry Seinfeld moment at the top where, Mount Colden is 47,000 feet. Not 47,000. I keep saying that. Mount Colden is 4,700 feet. And you definitely have that Seinfeld moment where it's like, what, God couldn't have made it like an even 5,000? You had to made it like 4,700. You couldn't make it just 5,000. But it's definitely one of the taller mountains. I can see if, let's see. I've got the list. So the tallest mountain in the Adirondack area is 5,300 feet. And then let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's only 10 mountains in the Adirondacks that are taller than Mount Colden. And there's this whole list of mountains below it that are not as tall. And it was funny too because, we went up the trap dike, like I said, which is the more challenging route. There's also a trail that leads up. And so me and the guy get to the top, and we're just kind of hanging out. We're sitting down, resting my feet. My feet, by the way, this is why I was having doubts on the way up if I could make it, because my knees were exploding. My knees were in so much pain, and they still are. And I've still got tons and tons and tons of blisters on my feet. I didn't wear very good socks, unfortunately. I wore some funny socks. They're green socks, and they've got like mountains and trees on them. And it's got a little quote. It says, "I fucking love it out here." And my mother gave me those. It's very funny. And so I wore those kind of as a honorary thing, but definitely not the best socks to wear for mountain climbing for sure. So my feet were very tired, tons of blisters and stuff. But we're just sitting at the top, hanging out for a couple minutes, eating some food, getting some water. And this like 80-year-old guy comes up from the other side, from the trail side. And I don't know, I just thought it was funny. It's like I'm 24 years old and I just like busted my ass rock climbing. And then here comes this 80-year-old man. He didn't go the same way that we did, obviously, but he just comes up and he's like, yeah, hey guys, what's going on? I'm gonna go head back down the trail. See ya. He didn't stay at the peak for very long, which was interesting. I wanted to stay there like all day. I wanted to stay at the summit there all fucking day. But yeah, so we stayed up there. Had some snacks, had some water, took some pics, and then we headed back down. And let me tell you, the way down was harder than the way up, because I was tired at that point. And the way down, it's a lot of it's descending, so it's kind of easier, but it's not like flat trail. There's a lot of like big rocks, and there's a big stream that kind of runs down the back of the mountain. And so it's a lot of like stepping over big rocks, stepping from rock to rock, and just kind of crossing the stream. And even when the stream is not there, you're still stepping from rock to rock to rock, and it's very hard on your knees. And at some point on the way down, I had run out of water. I brought tons of water, because I brought probably like a 32-ounce water bottle, and then I brought a little canteen as well in my backpack. But I guess I just love to chug water. It's hard for me to like just take sips of water, I always want the big gulp of water, not a little sip. So yeah, the way down was very difficult, because we had to go down the mountain first, and then we got to the 4.5 miles of trail again to get back to the lodge. And I was in a lot of pain. But you got to keep just pushing yourself even through that. And I did, and I traveled the trail very slowly. We made really good time getting to the top of the mountain. We got there in really good time. On the way back, not so good time. Not so good. I was very, very slow on the way back. But yeah, I did that, and then did the 4.5 miles of trail again, and then we're back at the lodge. And it's interesting, because I didn't expect a sudden change in myself after climbing a mountain. I think some people did. I think some people were like, okay, you're going to climb this mountain and you're going to feel so much better about yourself and so much better about your life. And it's not really like that, It's definitely just an incredible thing to do. Like I said, it's an incredible life experience. But and not to be like too depressing with my very first podcast here, but I'm still me, I'm still me, and I still have the challenges in my life that I still have to deal with, and I still have the challenges with myself that I still have to deal with and tackle. So, it's not like you do this and then all of a sudden you're a different person. I'm still the same person. I'm still the miserable fuck that I am. It's just now I'm a miserable fuck who's climbed a mountain. But I'm definitely glad that I did it. I think over time I can start to see it possibly as a new beginning in a way. And I had plenty of time to just kind of relax during this trip, and plenty of time. I love taking plane rides and just like getting some little projects done. I'm being convinced by my therapist to try stand up again, and so most of the plane ride over was me me writing that 4-minute stand-up. If I went to like an open mic, they usually give you 4 minutes. And so most of the plane ride was me working on that. So, it's good to get some time into that. But yeah, so that was yesterday. I'm recording this on Wednesday afternoon. And actually today me and the guy, I paid for 2 days with the guide. And actually today we were supposed to do some more rock climbing, do some intro to rappelling and ascending, and we did some ascending on the trap dike, but just do some rappelling and stuff. But unfortunately, it was pretty rainy this morning, and you definitely don't want to do rock climbing when all the rocks are wet and shit. So he gave me a refund on that, and we kind of canceled that plan. So I just kind of went to a couple of places. Definitely drove there because I didn't want to walk again. But a couple of the cooler places that I saw, and just kind of looked at those again. It was kind of cool. It was rainy in the morning, and then it cleared up for a little bit as I was exploring. And then once I was done, it started raining again. But did that, and then got all my stuff out of the hotel and packed it up in the rental car and drove the 2 hours back to Albany, where I am now. And it's cool. The hotel in Keene Valley was nice, but it's definitely somebody's house, and it wasn't like a regular hotel. It was it was more just like somebody's room that somebody had built. So that was cool. That was a cool experience. Right now I'm staying at the Hilton Garden Inn, and yeah, it's definitely cool to be in a regular hotel room too. It's cool to get kind of both of those experiences in one trip. But yeah, today, it's 3:38, and tomorrow morning I'm heading back to Atlanta, and yeah, so today I'm recording this podcast, obviously, but I'm also just kind of reflecting and seeing how I feel, because like I said, I'm definitely still kind of confused on how I feel. It's mostly good. It's mostly a sense of pride and a sense of accomplishment. And how many people in their life can say that they climbed a mountain, metaphorically or like literally. So I literally climbed the mountain, and now I just got to get to a point where I can metaphorically climb my own mountains in my head and stuff. So yeah, so that's part one of my quest to be more creative. So I'm gonna try and it's easy to get into a rhythm. It's easy to get into a rhythm where you're just doing the things that you need to do, and you're not doing the things that you want to do. You're not doing anything extra. You're just working at your job and buying your groceries and making dinner every night, playing with your cat. But you're not really, when you get the free time, you're just kind of hanging out. You're not like really doing anything with that time. And so, I want to get to a point where I'm doing stuff with that time, and I'm not just doing the things that are necessary to live, but I'm taking that time and I'm doing a little extra too. So yeah, hopefully this, thinking about this over the next couple days will really inspire me, and maybe inspire some of you. I'm sure all 3 people that listen to this podcast. It's funny. I could probably name the 3 people that are going to listen to this too, and they probably won't even listen to this point anyway, because we've been going for almost 40 minutes. But yeah, I think that's going to do it. I think that it's kind of a short podcast, but I mean, it's just me. So I'm very good at improv, and I'm very good at bouncing off people, but I'm not very good at bouncing off myself. So yeah, that's episode 0 of the SuperHypeGaming podcast. Going forward, I'm not sure what this podcast is going to look like. Like I said, podcasting is something that I've been interested in a while, but it's something that I definitely wanted to do with another person. So, possibly I'll be looking for that partner, for that person to record this with. Because ideally, I'd like to talk about really just anything. There's a few podcasts that really inspire me, that I really love, and I love their format. And so really, I'd like to just have a place where I can talk to somebody about, games and music and movies and all kinds of interesting things, and just, life events and stuff like that. So yeah, that's it. So now we struggled with how to open the podcast, and now I'm struggling with how to close the podcast. If you've listened this far, thank you. I appreciate you. Make sure, I guess I can just plug myself, right? Make sure you follow my Twitch account, SuperHypeGaming. I play lots of cool stuff there. I've got some exciting stuff coming up. I'm gonna continue playing Control. I played that for one night. That game came out, unfortunately, a couple days before I had to leave for my trip. So I only got one night with it, and I'm dying to go back. That game was super, super, super interesting. Super, super weird, and just it really grabbed me. And then hopefully if we can get like a Friday, Saturday, 2-day open where I don't have to do anything Friday afternoon, I would love to play through Metal Gear Solid 1, which is a game that I've been meaning to get to for many, many, many years. And I think we're going to finally get to it. I haven't played it before. I think this is going to be a fun, goofy stream. And then, let's see, in October, we're going to have Spooky Hype Gaming. So I've got an announcement video going up. It's already up. It's going to go up before this podcast goes up, where I talk about some of the new things I got. So it's kind of cool. This is going to go up later, so I can talk about secret stuff. But I got a new logo. I got this podcast going on. And we got Spooky Hype Gaming. Spooky Hype Gaming. I'm 40 minutes in. I've been talking 40 minutes straight. I'm starting to lose it. Starting to lose my voice here. Not really, but so yeah, Spooky Hype Gaming will be all of October. I will be streaming spooky games. Stuff like Castlevania, Bloodborne. I really want to play Man of Medan. I know it's not getting great reviews, but it's not getting bad reviews either. So that'll be a thing. But I'll basically be streaming every opportunity that I get. I do have another trip in October for work, so there'll be kind of a weekend and a few days where I won't be able to stream. But basically every other day in October that I'm capable of streaming, I will be streaming. So that's really exciting. If you don't follow my Twitter account, if you can guess it, is @SuperHypeGaming, and I tweet lots of stuff. I tweet info about my streams. I try my hand at making some jokes and stuff like that, making, dumb little fucking Twitter posts and shit. But yeah, that was a podcast. I can't believe we went for so long. But yeah, definitely. If you're it's weird. Like, I can't recommend mountain climbing to everyone because it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone, but, I feel like if you're struggling with your life, and if you're struggling with kind of finding yourself and feeling like you're at a point where, you're not really who you want to be, definitely do something. It doesn't have to be a mountain climb, but just do something that's challenging. Do something that takes you out of your comfort zone, and just see what happens with it. So yeah, that's going to be the end of this podcast, and maybe I'll see you guys for episode 1 very soon. Bye.